This video is going to provide very good details on where the funding is coming for these riots that we're seeing at this point all over the country. Of course, they started in LA. The point of the video is to make sure everybody understands where the money is coming from and some of the names behind that money that are supporting these riots that we're seeing all over the country. More importantly, everybody needs to understand all of this stuff that we're seeing and hearing, it's all connected. Of course, the Chinese are a part of it, the Russians are a part of it, and even the Iranians are a part of it. Remember, the Iranians are supplying drones to the Russians who are going against Ukraine. The Russians are certainly not a friend of ours. The Chinese are definitely not a friend of ours. We've been the victim of not one, but at least two bioweapon attacks, harmful biological components brought into this country illegally by Chinese students studying in this country. The Iranians are certainly a part of it also because of the old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And of course, there is a link with munitions, economics, oil, money, etc., between not just Iran and Russia, but also Iran and China. These protests are all supported and backed by communist Marxists. And to get more detail on that, watch the video. Here you go.
First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to educate the American people on what's really happening right now with these riots. So I see right now there's a lot of back and forth and finger pointing, but the fact is that there is a financial tie to these riots, tied to immigration, that actually leads right back to the Communist Chinese Party. Straight up, the LA riots have been organized by an organization dubbed PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, funded by billionaire Chinese activist Neville Singham, who spends parts of his year by living in Shanghai. In addition to that, although he is not a registered foreign agent, he accepts a lot of money from the CCP and then turns around it and funnels it right into some of these violent protests that we're seeing. But it doesn't just stop there. This is not the only organized protest that's using brown people and immigrants as a ruse to push their communist and Marxist agenda. Mr. Waltz, thank you for coming in today to testify, or Mr. Walls. Real quick, is it true, yes or no, that you are speaking at the June 14th Twin Cities No King rally?
Now, Tim Walz is an interesting character because, as I hope most people understand, he is a huge fan of communist Marxist China, and he has been for a long time. She brings up some of that history, and it's just amazing to listen to this guy stumble through answers. I still can't believe he was a vice president candidate, but be that as it may, Tim Walz has a connection to Chinese communists. And it's very nice to see her and to hear her bring that out and try to get him to answer clearly, which he obviously has some difficulty with. But let's continue with the video for a minute. Here we go.
I can't confirm that right now. That could be true.
Okay. Just so you know, they're advertising you speaking there.
Okay.
The graphic's actually on X right now. I'd be happy to provide it for you, so I'll take that as probably speaking. Is it true also, I know on your campaign, that you had admitted to visiting China anywhere from 15 to 30 times, sir? Yes or no, please?
I did live in China. And
No, visiting, sir, in addition to living there and in addition to having,
that's correct.
All right. Also, too, I'd like to note that during your time in Congress that you filed for a $5 million earmark that actually was secured. $2 million of it went to the Harmel Institute that actually collaborated with the Wuhan Institute. Also, the Department of Homeland Security, sir, just to you, so that you're tracking, actually had an internal memo that was released that stated that the government of China considered you a prime target for influence operations. I'm letting you know that now because I do believe that you should be made aware of, if you are not already, that you are working with and going to be speaking at an organization and rally that not is just funded by Christy Walton, the heiress of Walmart, but also has ties to the Chinese Progressive Association, largely funding it, that actually brags on their website that they are pro-Maoist. Also, too, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. I know there's a lot of people on this committee that don't like billionaires interfering in politics, but say nothing when George Soros gets over $260 million from USAID through the last administration that's then funneled into some of these nonprofits and organizations. So I guess my question for you guys is, now that I've made you aware that these riots are not about illegals and they're not about immigrants, if they did, they would have been protesting under Barack Obama, who's also dubbed the deporter-in-chief. And frankly, I think many of you would say that Barack Obama was a good president. Are you going to say that Barack Obama wasn't a good president? Yes or no, Governor Waltz? Do you think he was a good president?
Do I think Barack Obama was a good
Correct.
president? I think he did a good job.
Okay, how about you, Governor Pritzker?
I think he did a good job,
Hochul?
yes.
Hochul, and yes, he did do a good job.
Okay, next. Perryman?
I think President Obama did a good job.
So then you would understand that Barack Obama had the very same policies, for the most part, on immigration that Republicans are parroting today, and yet you guys are sitting here saying that we're Gestapo. And what I would tell you is that what happens with open borders is that the real people that are coming here, the ones that are exploited, actually it hurts people on both sides, not just Americans, but the illegals. Some of you had said here to the actual committee that you are doing what you can to assist these people, but what I would say is that your policies aren't actually done from a place of understanding and sympathy. I would say that it's actually doing the exact opposite. And when you use brown people, just like they use black people with BLM and Marxists during BLM to usher that in, when you use brown people and you put Mexican flags with them saying that you stand up for illegal immigrants, but you follow the money and it's going back to the Communist Party, what you're essentially doing is using your platform as elected officials, the trust that the American people have put in you, essentially to usher in communism. You're not actually fighting for American values. Don't roll your eyes, because it's a serious topic and that's where the money's coming from. So now I'm informing you, so now you guys can make your decisions, but please be informed, sir, Mr. Walls, that if you truly do uphold the American ideologies and perspectives on the Constitution, you should not be speaking at that rally. I've given you the correct information, and as of right now, I've authorized a letter to be sent to my office to the President of the United States to rescind millions of dollars in funding that we know are going to the No Kings protests that were authorized and basically given under the last administration. That is what Congress is supposed to do, not point fingers, not blame people, but actually ensure that the American people are protected and not fighting for foreign interests, foreign governments, and also the communist
Will the
traits.
gentlelady yield for a question?
No.
You don't want to tell us
Chairman?
what your evidence is of all
Yes,
this connections?
actually, no, I will yield to that.
And of course, there's evidence. The FBI is launching a probe to track the money and the people behind the money supporting these riots. It's there. More and more of it will come out over time. But what I really want people to understand is that these Marxist communists are extremely dangerous, and that they've been in this country for a long time. Just to put things into perspective, the Chinese Marxists murdered more of their own people than everybody that died during World War II. They murdered over 60 million of their own people during their Marxist revolution that was led, of course, by Mao. And Xi is a huge follower and a proponent of that. So you need to understand that. You know, as bad as some other people have been that they teach us about in schools and in history classes, it's befuddling to me that these schools don't teach the brutal history, the murderous history of Marxist communists, but nonetheless, there's the information. These people are a problem. But let's continue with the video for a minute, because you're going to hear these guys asking for evidence and proof. They know we have it. These hearings are painful to listen to, with all the baloney that goes back and forth primarily from these Democrats. But nonetheless, we have it. She has it. The Democrats are more than willing to join the hearings, as she said. We'll see if that actually happens. Let's continue with the video, and bear with the Democrats interrupting and asking for the proof. It's there. They're more than welcome to attend the hearings. Let's continue with the video.
Appreciate
No,
Goldman,
wait,
you'll
wait,
get
I
5
will-
minutes. Take your
let
word
me answer
for
the
it.
question.
But
Let me answer
you'll
the question.
appreciate we might want actual evidence.
I would be happy to provide that, and I'd also be happy to inform Chairman that actually we have a letter of which you can sign on to. I know you like to sign on to letters with us, especially on the Epstein stuff. But we actually have a letter going out to Neville Singham on Friday, and it's actually signed by every single member of Oversight. I'd like to extend that to you, because that letter is calling him to testify, and it's also calling for his financial transactions. And do you agree, sir, that we should not be accepting money from the Communist Chinese Party? I think anyone on this platform would agree that that should not be accepted, correct?
I would like for you to actually present evidence rather than just,
yes.
quote, inform the witnesses. And now that they're informed, they
Look,
should assume that
I
what
don't
you
disrespect
say is
you. I'm
true
going to answer your question.
when
We are
it's
having a
repeatedly
hearing on it where we
debunked.
can
It's
present
the
all the
right-wing
evidence.
Order.
No, but let's have this
Yeah,
dialogue.
go ahead. You're
recognized,
recognized, Ms. Luna.
We are going to be having a hearing, and you can gavel on to the hearing. I'd appreciate you to do it, because the fact is that the Democrat Party, remember,
Is
look,
it going to be as good as the Biden impeachment hearing?
Mr. Goldman, you'll have 5 minutes in a
Let's keep it
moment.
focused real quick.
Well, Mr.
I'd
Chairman,
like to
she's
go
out
a
of
step
time. I just think
further.
you're trying not to let me talk.
Guys, if you guys want to talk about it, I'll answer the question. But Mr. Singham is also funding Code Pink through his wife.
You know, it's my turn.
Can
Can we ask Elon to divest
I know
from
you know
China
it.
while we're at
The
it?
lady's
There's ties
time's
there.
expired. The
That's right.
lady's
Thank you
time's
very much. We'll
expired.
be having the hearing. Y'all are invited.
I'm going to wrap this up with truly a plea to as many people out there as possible to educate ourselves on what's going on with this Chinese Marxist influence in this country. I'm going to put up an image of a book that's very easy to read. You can read it in one sitting. It's incredibly fact-based, and it traces the history of the Marxist communist influence in this country, which, believe it or not, goes all the way back to the mid-1930s when Marxists came from Europe and specifically from Germany, were hosted by the president of Columbia University, that same university that hates Jews and loves people from Hamas. They came here in the mid-1930s, and we've been living with it ever since then. They are the people that created critical theory in the late 1930s. Critical theory is not a theory. It's just a mandate to create oppressor and oppressed. Hopefully you all have heard that. Oppressor and oppressed, they put into conflict. It could be men versus women, white versus black, white versus brown, black versus brown, straight versus gay, straight versus trans, trans versus women, and the list goes on and on. It's all critical theory. It's all oppressor and oppressed, and it was created by Marxists. And I really hope that people take the time, again, it's a short read, fact-based read, that you read in one sitting, no more than two, to understand where all this stuff comes from. We're dealing with it now in the form of these riots. And to truly understand the source, we need to self-educate ourselves because, the schools, public, private, they are not going to do it. No problem. Go to Amazon. The link is in the description below. Read the book, and you'll have all the answers to the questions, and everything will make more sense. The challenge is, what do we do about it? And we can't do anything about it until we understand it, which gets back to reading the book and understanding it. Then we can clearly start cleaning this mess up politically, financially, legally, etc., and get this country back on the right path again. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something from it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this and get more information you're not going to see elsewhere, subscribe. By all means, share it with people you think are interested in the topic as well. And certainly that book, just trying to get as many people as educated on the topic, this whole Marxist oppressor and oppressed critical theory topic as humanly possible. As always, until next time, God bless. Love y'all.